Back in 2022, you guys saw my first review of this gun. Not this specific gun, but a P365-380 loaner gun from SIG. This gun is the Rose Edition, which really just means that it has some pretty pink accents, which I sincerely don't mind at all. This gun also has a manual safety, and I mounted a spare Vortex Defender CCW that I had. If you recall, I did an initial 500 round test with the first gun I had. I had countless malfunctions for the first 500 rounds, and after sending it back to SIG to have them give it a look, they discovered that it did in fact have a bulged recoil spring. After they fixed it and sent it back, I had a single malfunction out of 500, which occurred when I was using a 9mm magazine, so it doesn't really count. Now that we've done an overview of the last time I talked about this gun on this channel, let's get into this updated experience with an entirely different gun. The first 500 rounds I shot through this gun were all in one range trip, consecutively, which might sound like a lot of fun, but is actually a whole lot of work when you only have 3 10-round magazines. My test ammo was LAX ammo. I only had one issue with it, which was a failure to extract that then resulted in a double feed. And I don't really know how or why that happened, but I was able to clear it and move on. For my second range trip, I really wanted to attempt to induce failures. From my previous experience and from watching reviews from people like Chris Baker over at Lucky Gunner, it really does seem like the P365-380 is fairly sensitive to ammunition power and the shooter's grip. Too little oomph in your ammo or grip has caused malfunctions in the first gun I tested. This newer model, however, combined with a slightly hotter 380 load, ran flawlessly even with my absolutely abysmal one-handed distinguished pinky out grip technique. From what I've been able to gather over the last couple of years, SIG has sort of developed somewhat of a reputation for having issues with their freshly launched products. And I'm afraid that the P365-380 initially was no exception to that. I can't say for sure though that the more recently manufactured 380s will be 100% reliable 100% of the time, but after putting a little over 600 rounds through this specific gun with no notable issues to report, I would say that it's certainly an option worth considering. If this is a gun you're considering for concealed carry purposes, then I would definitely recommend you take the time to test your specific gun. Pick up a couple hundred rounds of 380 and make sure that your gun will run it and even get a little extra practice in. Also make sure that it will reliably run whatever ammunition you plan on using for carrying purposes. I realize that doing this is an added expense, but it's certainly a worthwhile investment in your safety. Now that we're through the bulk of this updated review of the P365-380, I need to go over some administrative stuff that's less cool, but still worth discussing. In my first review, I mentioned that there's an issue with holster compatibility in the 380. SIG's website says that the 380 will fit in 9mm holsters, and that's simply not true 100% of the time. I'm not sure if the website still says that, but I'm here to tell you that the 380 slide is slightly thinner than the 9mm slide, which is going to mess with holster fit tolerance. So when shopping for a P365-380 holster, I would definitely recommend finding a holster that is specifically designed for the thinner 380 slide. If you're considering using a 9mm holster, then I would at least encourage you to contact the manufacturer and ensure that they have actually test fit the 380 variant in their 9mm holster. And note that it's up to you on whether or not you actually want to trust their judgment on fit tolerance. Retention is a big part of how we make carrying guns on our person safe, so it's definitely not a safety feature that you're going to want to overlook. Fortunately, however, over the last year, more holster makers have become aware of the fact that the 380 slide is thinner and have started making 380 specific holsters. Overall, my opinion of the SIG P365 and 380 has more or less stayed the same. It's a lot of fun to shoot and is certainly easier to handle than a similarly sized standard P365 and 9mm. If you want something small that still holds 11 rounds and is pretty easy to shoot, it can be a good option with the right ammo and a good grip foundation. That said though, I'm not sure that it has dethroned my Glock 42 as my favorite small gun. If you like little guns in 380 like I do, stay tuned for another video comparing the two in the future.